With the ability to vote and enter politics, many African Americans who had fled the South returned home.
At the end of the war, Smalls came back to Beaufort, where he purchased a house where he'd grown up as a slave. His mother had worked as a slave. His mother now was presiding over this house as a free person. She'd been presiding over it for a long time for the McKee family, and now she was doing it for her son. Then Smalls went fairly quickly into politics.
The Beaufort Republican Club became the base of Robert Smalls' political career, and Robert Smalls went all over the county, canvassing, as they said, but campaigning. He proved himself to be a very clever orator, great at repartee and dramatic in his oratory, and often aggressive and colorful and all those things. The black population of the Sea Islands responded immediately to Robert Smalls. And so this was the beginning of his political career.
In the spring of 1868, Robert Smalls was elected to the South Carolina State House of Representatives, where he joined the black majority in the legislature. It was the only state in the Union to be dominated politically by African Americans. South Carolina, where the Civil War had begun, would become a major proving ground for Reconstruction. Across the country, African Americans entered political life at every level of society.
If you make this comparison between 1860, when 90% of black people were slaves, and 1868, 1870, when you've got African Americans who are in state legislatures, they are black mayors and police chiefs, there are blacks in the U.S. Senate, in the U.S. House of Representatives. They are literally revolutionizing American politics.
After the Compromise of 1877, African Americans found themselves increasingly forced out of politics. Across the South, black Republicans were simply removed from their posts. Robert Smalls, a U.S. congressman who could not be removed, was charged with corruption, jailed, and eventually pardoned.
They did to Robert Smalls what they did to a lot of prominent black politicians at that time. And those charges haunted Robert Smalls for the rest of his life. But Robert Smalls was a very brave man. Not just stealing the planter, but his fighting in 17 battles in the Civil War, he wasn't afraid of gunfire. He wasn't afraid of standing up to people who were armed when he was not. He had immense personal courage.
Robert Smalls never gave in. To the disdain of the Democrats, he continued to run and be re-elected from his predominantly black district for 9 more years. His leadership would give hope to his people in the years of uncertainty to come.